What in the world happened here? Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out more content. So start off the What in the World Happened Here this weekend segment. We have our first top 8 for Kewl Tune coming out of the gate here, and this finally went legal in Europe. America has to wait 2 weeks in order to get this, but I figured we would talk about this list because this is very interesting just to get to see, you know, why this deck is functionally really strong. Now, you got to remember, you are supporting a lot of types within this bad boy, and I think that's kind of an important thing to remember, especially when one of your key components is able to bring out the Red Nova. And yes, I know it's really funny that this deck does get the chance to interact with Red Nova, beaming out a level 1 tuner, giving you access to, you know, the 4 lines down here is going to be very critically important. I also find it interesting that this duelist chose not to actually main deck the Duelist Genesis, because having access to this to get to the Synchro Overtake is one of the most important tools in the deck, but at the same time, I don't really want to get blown out by Droll and Lockbird. I feel like this becomes one of those cards that you're kind of forced to look at and make decision trees on based on the deck's performance and how you're kind of trying to structure your, you know, opening fields. I also do see that we are playing the Cross Out in the main deck and the Called by the Grave. I think both of these are going to be excellent components for this deck. You need to be able to have as much stopping power as you initially can to be able to wrench your opponent, or when your opponent tries to stop you. So also, we are actually playing the Delta and the Gamma for the very early build. I think this is fine. Also, you are going to notice we are playing Pot of Extravagance in here, which is kind of hilarious. Also, sadly, your Genesis point values are a little bit expensive, but you're choosing to play the Pot of Extravagance in this deck. Your extra deck is basically maxed to the ceiling for all of these Kewl Tune monsters. All right, you're not going to have any problems having, you know, maybe a possibility you might hit one of these, but I can't imagine that this deck isn't able to function, especially, you know, when you got the power down or on levels here, which is very good. And then, of course, the rest of this deck is very good. Also, they're only playing 1 copy of the Kewl Tune. I think that this is fine. There's not really much of a reason to push further on playing multiple of these. You want to keep the deck, honestly, as streamlined as you can to make sure that I can get those optimal numbers. And then you're going to notice this little guy right here, the Naturia Rose Whip, actually seeing play within the deck. Now, the reason why we choose to look at Rose Whip here is because Rose Whip is one of the most devastating tuner floodgate monsters that you can bring out. And when I say it's a floodgate, it has one effect that just says your opponent can only activate 1 spell and trap each turn. Alright, this literally forces them to make a commitment on whatever spell that they're going to have, which, depending on, you know, how the mirror match, you know, shifts up, depending on how the rest of the other potential candidates could really shape up within the meta, this card will be something that you'll be able to side in and constantly put that floodgate pressure on your opponent. So I think for a very first early list here, also only playing 2 mix, but pretty much maximizing on the rest of the numbers within the main deck, I think that this is a wonderful showcasing to go, hey, you know, we actually have a Kewl Tune list. We've actually got our first success. And I think that's very much impressive just to kind of see that, hey, it is actually working. Now, this weekend's YCS really proved to us that Shaddolls are kind of in the driver's seat right now in terms of the innovation department with Draco Tail. Now, the reason for this is people are starting to realize, oh, hey, you know, Winda's a very strong card. And we're able to put up this absurd wall against the opponent, and they have to try to find a way to deal with it while we can make an Arthalion and actually bounce back whatever threat that they're trying to deploy. Also, most of the Shaddoll stuff is going to be spellcaster type monsters, which is one of the key components that you are going to need to fuel the creature that is going to be the Secretarian Dragon and all of that interesting little reverse synergy that this deck suddenly has. And I'm kind of intrigued by this because, you know, we went from one YCS to suddenly rotating back here, and now we're seeing that, oh, hey, you know, this deck actually is not actually falling out of the meta. What you're actually now seeing is a quick shift and a quick adaptability to actually seeing that, hey, you know, the Shaddoll cards now have a purpose. And I once again, I think that most of this success has to do with Shaddoll still being one of the main components and one of the best pieces that you can kind of use to initially get things off of the ground. So if you're looking at wanting to play Draco Tail right now, you are going to have to give some very serious consideration to the Shaddoll cards, because it looks like, for the time being, that that's going to be the way to go about it. I mean, the branded package is still there. It did have a top. I mean, there were multiple Draco Tail decks across the board. This isn't a, you know, don't play the Shaddoll stuff and lose. It's a, this is the current trend we're going to near the end of this. It's actually considerably interesting to kind of consider. So there's that. And then, of course, we had the off-sighting for Gem Knights from this weekend's YCS. Now, from everything that I have been able to deduce, Archlord Christia being a side deck target in for this deck is the way to play. Honestly, you can blame Master Duel for showing the world that the reason why Gem Knights were actually like a viable deck was because they could just straight up make this Archlord Christia against their opponent. And what's their opponent supposed to do? There's nothing that you can do. It's like, oh, hey, you know, Gem Knight's entire game plan is to go second, and, you know, but if we make them go first, what are they supposed to do? Well, that's very sound logic, man. I agree with you. That would typically be a great idea. The problem is now they've found out that we can play, you know, this Sprite Sprint and the rest of the package here to deploy and get this initial setup, make the Christia. And if you're playing against Gem Knights, you're not really going to have board breakers in at that point. So until people realize, oh, hey, you know, Gem Knights are now boarding into this, you're going to have to make a counter play to be able to beat an Archlord Christia. And I guess it's crazy to think about that Archlord Christia is the defining point of a OTK deck, whose job is just to climb over the axis and be able to push for a game. Like, I don't know why, I'm impressed by that idea. So if you're wondering why all of a sudden Gem Knights are coming in as a competitor in the metagame space, well, it's because not only do they have one of the best going second break your board, I had the droplet hee hee ha ha's, they also have a pretty solid game plan to initially kind of get a Archlord Christia set up. I know, it's kind of crazy to think about one card turning the tide for things. And then the state of the legendary 5Ds decks, honestly, Synchro Fellowship too. Synchro Fellowship has 18 listings at $2.26 copy. It's like $3. I find this card to be like, it's crazy to me how much people are picking these up. Same thing with the Full Speed Warriors. And also the Legendary 5Ds decks themselves have actually bottomed out to basically MSRP at this point. The lowest ones available are $34.89, which I think is $1 or $2 more than what it is to go get them at your local store. But I mean, that also includes shipping. So I mean, technically, they're shipping this product to you. So I mean, an extra $1 to get it delivered to your door is not exactly the worst thing in the world. I do appreciate the fact that the Legendary 5Ds decks have been constantly getting pressured down on. And it's really good that, you know, unfortunately picking up the singles in the Mulch Armies does equal the price of the decks themselves. But the Legendary 5Ds decks are one of the most popular products that we have seen in years. They provide such a good gateway for players to be able to get in. And I mean, crazy enough, I've been seeing people actually picking up 26 to 13 of these. And they're just buying out large quantities of them because singling it out is just the better call for the time being. So I don't know. impressed to see where the Legendary 5Ds decks are going to continue to kind of go in the future. They're a product that definitely has a long-term good side to them. But today is just an interesting day for everything that's been going on. So make sure you guys leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. And I will see your beautiful faces back here in a day, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.